vinyl community, another weekend and another vinyl update. I have a lot of stuff to show, a lot of stuff which I've been meaning to show for quite a while, which is kind of built up, so I'll get into it as quick as I can. First off, shout out to Adam Nichols, who alerted me to the fact that he was buying an update copy of Scott 3 by Scott Walker, so he offered to sell his own original copy to me for a very reasonable price. Scott 3 by Scott Walker, the third installment in the Scott Walker self-titled early 60s series of albums. This is one which was big time on my want list. It's an original UK pressing on Philips, so I've been looking at a few copies on Discogs, and it really does go for quite silly money. So I bought this off Adam for €18, including postage, which is very, very reasonable considering generally what this original pressing of this album goes for at the moment. So very nice condition. He said there was some surface noise on it, but I can't actually hear anything kind of serious on it. It's a very, very nice copy. I now have 3 out of 4 in this self-titled Scott series, so that just leaves number 1, the first one. I think I'll probably pick that up easily enough because I think it's probably the more common of the 3. But anyway, this one has some 30th Century Man, also some great covers of some Brel songs. Funeral Tango, that's a great one. I think that's my personal favourite. So nice one, Adam, for I can now strike this major want list item off that list. So okay, now another member of the VC who I meet up with on a regular basis, because I don't live too far from him, is the one and only Ben Costello. I met up with Ben last weekend. We swapped some VCLT, and he knows that I'm a big Bowie fan, so he grabbed this for me. I think he got this in Galway when he was there not too long ago. This is Blue Jean, 7-inch single from this is from the album Tonight from '84. So thanks for that, Ben. He also gave me a very interesting item with this rather interesting cover. Excuse me. This is something he picked up in a charity shop in Limerick for €1. It's by this guy Fausto Pepetti, who is an Italian saxophonist. It's called 12% Racconto. Basically it's kind of easy listening, kind of cheesy saxophone solos. It's from, I think, it was 1970, 70 or 71, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it's kind of easy listening, but it's better than I expected, to be honest. Yeah, it's kind of cheesy, but there's some really nice kind of groovy kind of stuff in here. I particularly liked the last track, Meeting. I'm not sure who it's by, but that's a kind of a nice funky number. There's some nice funky guitar in here, and well, I mean, I mean, yeah, but, I mean, do I need to add anything about the cover, really? So thanks for that, Ben. It's kind of a collectible album, actually. I looked it up on Discogs. Like, it's pretty sought after. But anyway, there we go. Now, some pickups which I've made. First off, an item which I got on Discogs. Now this was inspired by another stalwart of the VC, Freddie Big Star, because he's shown this. It's also been shown, I think, by Chris 12 Basket, maybe. So this is by Pierre. I'm not going to, it's a very long title, but it's based Le Jerk Electronique, and it's, anyway. So this is from 1967, Pierre, a seminal figure in the development of musique concrète. I had seen this album at a fair going for quite a bit, but I looked it up online, and I was surprised to see that it doesn't go for that much. This is a French pressing. I don't know if it's the first pressing or not, because there's quite a few pressings from the same year of release that are quite similar, but it is an early French pressing. For those of you who've seen Freddie's video, there's one track on this which heavily inspired the psych rock, heavily inspired the theme music to that show, Futurama. So it's a really interesting mixture of kind of psychedelia, musique concrète, experimental music. By the way, it was done in collaboration with this guy at Béjart, who was a choreographer, and it's done to, it's basically a soundtrack to a ballet, but a very, very, very interesting album, and thanks to Freddie Big Star for turning me on to this, because okay, it's just, sorry, okay, so moving on. This was something which I got in a charity shop for €1.50. As you all know, there's nothing I like better than browsing in charity shops in the hope of finding some vinyl gold. But anyway, I struck lucky with this. This is by The Orb. Big fan of The Orb, as you'll know. I saw them live 20 years ago, back in 1995. One of my best ever gigs. This is from 1994. This is a mini album, and it's called Pomme Frites, The Orb's little album. In nice condition. The sleeve is a bit waved. It was kept somewhere kind of damp, I think, and there's a bit of. Anyway, the vinyl is perfect. A lot of Orb fans aren't too crazy about this one. There's a lot of weird stuff which could almost be described as kind of musique concrète on it, but I like this. I think this, I think this is a pretty worthy addition to their discography, and for €1.50, like, you can't go wrong. So The Orb. Now my local independent record store, they got some new second-hand stuff in, so I was checking that out recently. This is an interesting one. I picked this up for €6. It was a band I'd never heard of before, but I took a chance on it. This band is called Cycle Amp, and this is an EP called Ugly as Power. Now this is they're a group from Liverpool. They were active in the late 80s. This came out in 1987. Basically, this could be described as, if you were to compare it to anything, I'd compare them to Killing Joke. It's kind of industrial rock with very kind of harsh shouted vocals, use of tape manipulation. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with them. I hadn't heard of them beforehand, but they're kind of a forgotten group. But for anyone who's into kind of noisy, kind of noise rock, kind of, you know, like Sonic Youth, Killing Joke, I think you'll like this. So this is worth checking out. It's on Probe. Came out on Probe Records, 1987. Cycle amp, and it's called Ugly as Power. The other item, which I actually got through a trade from that same record shop, so I got a nice trade on this. This is John Cale, and this is his debut album, Vintage Violence. It's not an original. It's a US reissue from, I'm not really sure when it came out. Discogs is a bit unclear on that, but possibly from the 90s or maybe early noughties. Okay, so yeah, I had been on the lookout for, prior to this, I didn't have any of John Cale's solo albums. This is his debut, so released not long after he left the Velvet Underground. Quite different to, the stuff that he had been doing with the Velvet Underground. It kind of reminds me a bit of Brian Eno's early solo albums. Yeah, I like this. This is Gideon's Bible, Charlemagne. Yeah, it's great stuff on here. It wouldn't be terribly experimental or anything like that, but it's well worth grabbing. I'm still on the lookout for Paris 1919 and Fear, and the one he did with Terry Riley, House of Anthrax, so they're still on my want list. Now moving on to, some of you might remember one of my previous videos, which I did maybe about 3 or 4 videos back. I showed some items which I bought from, there were records which were part of a school library, or so they were in a school library and they were being sold off by somebody who worked in the school. I previously bought some very interesting items. I went over the list again because they sent me a pretty long list of items, and I picked out a few. Now there was a lot of classical albums, so I'm not going to show them because a lot of people mightn't be interested in that. But I'm going to show a few of the other items which I got. Mostly kind of traditional Irish music. This is one. This is on a label which I've shown quite a lot. Gail Lynn, myself, and Ben Costello have shown this label quite a bit in the past. So this is an album from 1967. It's called Buntus Rinke. Rinke is Irish, Gaelic for dance, and it's called Basic Rhythms in Irish Dance Music. So it's kind of an educational record, really, for teaching of Irish dance. But it's nice, nice bit of trad music there. This is another item I picked up. A lot of these I'd never heard of before. I didn't know too much about them. This is another trad kind of folk album. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. It's called Shan Cale agus Cale, which basically means new songs and old songs. This one is okay. It's the first side is pretty good. Features kind of solo singing from these two people here, but side two largely features this this choir of young girls. A lot of songs on that side aren't so great. It was on a label that I'd never seen before. I'd say it's rare enough. Glenside, some of the early 70s, 73. Ben, you'd be probably quite interested in this, you know. Sorry. Also, this is a very nice little 7-inch single as well, which came out on Kiltus Kyotori Aaron Records in 1970, featuring this young lady. I won't even try and pronounce her name or the name of the song because it's all in Gaelic, but this is very nice. This is a nice kind of an example of sean-nós singing, which is a traditional singing style from the west of Ireland. So a 1977 single, pretty rare. I'd never seen it before. I'd say it's quite hard to find. So that was nice. Also, this item, I don't think this needs any introduction. A collection of Beatles oldies. Not an original. I think it's probably an early 70s repress. Well, Adam Nichols, you have this as well. But yeah, all of these were €2, by the way. These items. There we go. Okay. Now, one very interesting item which I got from that same source, which also came from the school library, is this. This is called Stories in Movement. It is an album from 1969 on EMI. It features, now there's two composers who I'm not familiar with, Peter Wishart and David Lord. Now they're it's basically an educational record for children, teaching them about, basically about music, but very interesting. This kind of the two contributions by Peter Wishart and David Lord are kind of almost like classical, but kind of quirky, kind of classical. Then the final section, which is King Monkey, it's called. It's kind of illustrating children's kind of traditional children's stories from around the world. So King Monkey, it's composed by John Danquart, who was the husband of Cleo Lane. So his contribution is really interesting. It's kind of funky, kind of jazzy. It sounds like kind of almost library, maybe kind of 1960s library music or kind of soundtrack music, because he used to do a lot of movie soundtracks in the 60s, and it does have that kind of a feel. It feels kind of almost like, you know, these kind of 1960s kind of spy kind of TV programs. It kind of has that kind of a vibe. I'd say this is pretty rare enough as well, because I've never seen it. I was looking it up online, couldn't find anything about it. I added it to Discogs because there was no Discogs entry on it, so so a very interesting item, and again, only €2, as were all the rest of these items. This is a kind of an unusual item which I picked up in a cash converter store here in the city. Cash converters, they're kind of what would you call them? Kind of pawn shops. But this is a single. It's a 7-inch single, kind of private press, produced by a kind of local kind of punk performer. It came out in 1985. It's called Whatever Happened to Cuckoo by Anthony and the Alcoholics. It was brought out by a guy called Anthony McCarthy, who he's no relation to me. McCarthy is a very common surname here in Cork. From what I know about him, he's kind of been this kind of involved in the kind of local scene, kind of music scene since the 80s. This is something that he brought out in 1985 under the name of Anthony and the Alcoholics. It's basically this kind of weird spoken word thing. It kind of features the vocal talents of this guy. There was a guy, this kind of local eccentric character here in Cork called Bernie Murphy. He's kind of a very well-known character. He's not quite a wino, but he was kind of a well-known character, you know. He was kind of... Anyway, this side one is basically kind of a weird spoken word thing from him with all kind of echoey sound effects. It's kind of a weird thing. It's kind of an oddity item, but you know, and it's quite rare enough. So it was an interesting find. Now, the very last item I'm going to show. Now, it is a classical item, and I know a lot of you, you know, when the word classical is mentioned, your eyes glaze over. But keep watching. This is something which I've came across at a kind of a flea market 2 weeks ago, a kind of a pop-up flea market. There was one guy, now he wasn't actually there, I think it was his girlfriend who I was dealing with. He had a suitcase full of really mouldy, now they're really, really old and kind of, they look like they've been kept in a shed or something, mouldy classical records. I asked her about them. She said that he found them. I don't know exactly where he found them, maybe whether he found them in the street or found them in a skip or something, I don't know. But anyway, most of them were like, they were in good enough condition, but they were obviously stored, they'd been stored somewhere damp and they were all covered in mould and stuff. Now, I bought about 7 for €1 each. I'm not going to show the rest of them because the rest of them are kind of relatively common, but this is one which really caught my eye. Ida Handel with Gerald Moore. Now I know that kind of solo classical performer, you know, kind of solo instrumental performers are quite collectible in classical circles, especially females for some reason, because they're rarer, they're more unusual. Now it didn't have an inner sleeve, and the disc was absolutely covered in mould. I bought it anyway for €1. I've since had it cleaned. I've had it professionally cleaned, but I looked it up. I brought it home, looked it up on PopPsych, and this album in mint condition goes for well over €1,000. It is very, very rare and very collectible, very sought after. It never goes for anything less than 100 basically, and that would be ones in pretty poor condition. This one I'd say is probably VG. There are some kind of hairline scratches, there's the occasional pop here and there, there's a bit of crackle, but yeah, this is a record which, you know, in mint condition, it does go for well over €1,000. So I would say this particular copy, well, you know, it's a 3-figure sum anyway, as to what it would be worth. Yeah, so Ida, Ida, Ida Handel, um, Polish Jewish violinist who moved to England at a young age, obviously when when the Nazis, when the Nazis invaded or were kind of threatening to invade Poland. She's still alive and she's performing up till fairly recently. But yeah, this is a very very nice album indeed, record. Myself, I do have quite a lot of classical records, and but I was absolutely shocked when I saw how much it goes for, and the fact that I got it for €1, and really it was like kind of rescued from and the fact that somebody basically threw it away as well. Just kind of just goes to show you never know, like browsing you know flea markets and charity shops and stuff, you can strike gold if you persevere. So anyway, I do have a lot of other stuff to show. I have a lot. My last video I showed a load of CDs which I got in a charity shop. I did get a load more, but I'm going to leave them for the next video because this one's already running on, as you can see. So I will do another update pretty soon, and until then, thanks for watching and have a great weekend, everybody.